They thought she was just a nobody. They were wrong. The sun over the Arizona desert was merciless, baking the glossy tarmac of Falconridge Airfield until it shimmered like molten glass. It was a place where America's richest families sent their sons and daughters to play pilot, not because they'd earned it, but because someone else had paid for it. Their flight suits were custom-tailored. Their aviator sunglasses cost more than most people's rent. And their egos? Let's just say they arrived long before their jets ever did. So when Naomi Ellison stepped through the steel gates in worn-out sneakers, jeans that had seen better years, and a plain cotton shirt faded to the color of ash, the reaction was instant. A smirk from the security guard. A glance that said, "You're lost, aren't you?" And then words like barbed wire. "Ma'am, this isn't the maintenance entrance. If you're looking for the cafeteria." But Naomi didn't flinch. She didn't explain. She just walked past him, dragging a canvas tote over one shoulder, like she had every right to be there. And technically, she did. Inside, the airfield was buzzing. Private jets lined the hangars like polished trophies. Students, or rather future hedge fund heirs and senators' sons, lounged around sipping energy drinks and comparing watch brands. A tall guy with perfect teeth and a monogrammed leather flight jacket was live-streaming on some influencer platform, talking to his followers about the elite path to air dominance. Then someone noticed her. First, the snicker. Then, the camera tilt. Then, the mockery. Oh, wow. Did someone's Uber drop them off at the wrong decade? Look at her shirt, it's practically vintage thrift store tragic. Laughter. Phones came out. Streams lit up. Hashtags were already forming. Naomi kept walking. At the registration table, a woman with flawless makeup and glossy nails barely looked up. "Ma'am, this program is for certified candidates only, unless you're here to deliver something." Naomi calmly slid forward her folded application form. Her name was typed in neat, professional font. No extras, no explanations. The woman raised a brow, then chuckled without humor. "You do realize this is Falconridge, right? The most exclusive aviation prep in the Western US? We train legends here. And lunch ladies too, apparently," someone whispered just loud enough behind her. The crowd laughed again. They were circling now, a ring of rich kid wolves smelling the blood of someone who didn't belong. Then came the first bottle, full, cold, tossed like a joke that hit Naomi's ankle and burst open on the pavement. Water soaked into her shoes. A girl in a diamond-studded flight cap smirked. "Oops, hope your socks are waterproof, Captain Janitor." Still, Naomi said nothing, just shifted her weight to the other foot, kept her expression neutral. The final insult came not long after. One of the instructors, Commander Brad Whitmore, a man with a clipboard, sunglasses, and a jaw that screamed retired arrogance, stepped forward, looked her over, and made a show of checking the list. "You must have wandered off base, ma'am. This isn't a community college simulator. We don't run charity flights for tourists." "Let me make this easy for you," he added. "Get into that simulator over there. Show us what you think you know. You crash, you're out. You win? Well, you won't. But go on. Entertain us." The crowd loved it. A challenge designed not to test her, but to break her. One rigged to fail. The kind meant to humiliate, not evaluate. But Naomi just looked at him. No nod. No smirk. No words. She turned toward the simulator, soaked shoes squelching against the pavement, and climbed inside like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Inside the simulator pod, the lights flickered on. Multiple screens glowed with flight data. The cockpit, a replica of an F-22 Raptor interface, was a maze of toggles, switches, and digital overlays meant to overwhelm. For a novice, it was a minefield. For a poser, it was humiliation on demand. And that was the point. Unbeknownst to Naomi, the system had been tampered with. Input delay had been dialed up. Environmental turbulence cranked beyond safe parameters. One of the trainees even piped in artificial radio chatter meant to confuse. They wanted a show, a crash and burn, something to clip and share. Naomi sat still. She adjusted the seat, ran a silent systems check. Eyes scanned the dashboard not once, but 3 times. Then she placed her hands on the yoke with a grip that was neither hesitant nor forceful. It was practiced, controlled. From outside the pod, the smirks grew. Commander Whitmore crossed his arms. Any second now. She'll hit the fake mountain, nosedive into cactus pixels, and we'll be done babysitting thrift store Top Gun. But she didn't. Naomi throttled up. The simulated runway blurred under her command. The jet lifted not shaky, not panicked, but smooth, seamless, precise. She cut through turbulence like a surgeon with a scalpel. The radio chatter? She filtered it out. Her internal clock synced perfectly with mission timing. Angles, wind drift, and then she climbed. Too fast for a beginner, too clean for a fluke. Inside the hangar, the laughter quieted just slightly. Whitmore squinted. The influencers stopped recording jokes and started recording just in case. Is she holding altitude over the tower? One whispered. Wait, did she just compensate for the synthetic drift? Who even knows that trick? Naomi banked left, executed a barrel roll to stabilize under crosswind, then clipped a moving target with a sidewind missile in a rig that wasn't even designed to allow success without calibration. The control room technician, watching the flight from a secured feed, leaned forward. Sir, this doesn't make sense. She just corrected a dual sensor fault and compensated manually. What do you mean? Whitmore barked. I mean, she's not just flying the sim, she's fighting it. Outside, trainees started gathering in tighter circles. Some looked at each other. Some started asking, who is she? But nobody said it out loud. Not yet. Inside the pod, Naomi's jaw stayed locked, her posture unmoving. She made no dramatic motions, no gestures for effect, only subtle, exacting control the kind only veterans knew. 12 minutes in, she landed. Not crashed, not spun out, landed. Gear down, flare perfect, final approach textbook clean. The simulator's final screen didn't flash failure like it usually did when sabotaged. It didn't even flash sucks, it froze. Because no one expected the system to be beaten like that. She climbed out of the pod, not smug, not triumphant, just calm. Her canvas tote still rested where she left it. She slung it over her shoulder as if nothing had happened. The crowd? Frozen? Not from respect. Not yet. From confusion. Whitmore cleared his throat. Must have gotten lucky. Let's not make a scene. Anyone can fluke a sim run. But the room didn't buy it. Not anymore. In the next session, Naomi took a seat during the safety briefing. This time, no one threw paper balls. No one spilled water. They didn't like her, but they no longer dismissed her. A few even watched her just a little too long. As the instructor rattled off emergency protocol acronyms, Naomi quietly flipped through a flight manual, a real one. Not the camp's glossy brochures, but a tactical procedures binder used in combat squadrons. One of the cadets sitting near her, a cocky Marine legacy kid, snorted. You steal that from a museum? Naomi didn't reply. She just underlined a line of airspeed decay adjustment during flat spin recovery with the ease of someone who'd done it, not studied it. And then, something happened. A young intern, maybe 19, maybe younger, approached Naomi during the break. Ma'am, sorry to ask, but were you ever in the Phantom Wolf Squadron? Naomi paused for the first time, just for a breath. Then she turned, offered the faintest nod, and walked away. Behind her, the intern's face drained. He just stood there, frozen, staring. He knew. And suddenly, the phrase whispered down the row like wildfire. Phantom Wolf? Wait, no, that can't be her. The next morning, Falconridge buzzed with its usual arrogance. Champagne flutes clinked against titanium tables in the VIP lounge. Wealthy parents arrived in convoys of blacked-out SUVs to watch the scheduled Precision Flight demo, an event designed more to impress donors than teach pilots. The runway gleamed under a cloudless sky, lined with media tents, drone crews, and influencers holding microphones like golden wands. At the center of it all stood Candace Rothwell, heiress, head trainee, and daughter of the Falconridge Foundation chairman, dressed in a pristine flight suit stitched with diamonds. Today, she beamed to the cameras, we show the world why Falconridge produces legends. But as the opening fanfare began and cameras panned to the sky, something unscheduled appeared on radar. A blip. Small at first, then massive. Faster than protocol. No flight ID, no call sign. And then it roared into view. A silver streak pierced the horizon like a blade. Its scream shattered the Arizona silence. A thunderclap followed the signature sonic boom of a bird no civilian had clearance to fly. An F-22 Raptor. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. Someone dropped their phone. And then a second boom, then a third. 3 high G passes carved perfect diagonals over the airfield. The tarmac shook. Jet blasts sent loose hats tumbling. Dust clouds swirled like sandstorms kicked up by a god. And then, it landed. Effortlessly. Perfect angle of descent. Tires kissed the runway with surgical precision. The canopy hissed open with a slow, pressurized release. From the cockpit, Naomi Ellison stepped out. But this time not in sneakers. She wore a matte black flight suit, adorned with combat patches. Her oxygen mask dangled at her neck, her hair slicked back from the cockpit pressure, her eyes? Frozen steel. No expression, no smile. She didn't wave, she didn't gloat. She just stood on the tarmac while the world tried to make sense of what they were witnessing. And then a second rotor beat hit the air. A Black Hawk helicopter descended beside the Raptor. Doors opened. Out stepped Lieutenant General Malcolm Pierce, head of the Joint Combat Flight Command. His voice thundered through the shocked silence. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Lieutenant Colonel Naomi Ellison, combat record holder, Phantom Wolf Squadron Commander, decorated with 5 distinguished flying crosses. And the primary investor who saved Falconridge from bankruptcy 3 years ago? Gasps turned to stunned silence. Candace Rothwell dropped her champagne. Cameras pivoted like satellites struggling to focus. She didn't just attend this camp, the general continued. She owns it. She built the entire modern combat training module you all brag about. Naomi stepped forward. No microphone. Just one sentence. The only turbulence I faced was your egos. Then silence again. Until one by one every reporter, every camera, every student began turning to each other with widened eyes, realizing the gravity of what they had done. Candace, once the queen of the airfield, now looked like a prop from a fallen stage play. Her diamond flight pins reflected nothing but disgrace. She tried to speak, but the words collapsed in her throat. Commander Whitmore, pale and trembling, removed his sunglasses. The man who once sneered janitor now stood frozen as Naomi walked directly toward him. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't point. Just stopped 3 feet in front of him. You teach people to fly, she said, voice low, but forgot that flying too low means you crawl with insects. Then she turned to the crowd. No anger. No gloating. Only silence. And somehow, that silence in the face of so much betrayal was louder than any speech ever given. Then she walked back to the Raptor. Each bootstep across the tarmac echoed like a heartbeat in a courtroom. And just as she reached the aircraft ladder, she paused. Reached into her tote, yes, she still had it, and pulled out the crumpled water bottle Candace had thrown at her 2 days earlier. With a flick of her wrist, she tossed it into the nearby trash bin. Trash, she murmured, just loud enough for the front row to hear, belongs with trash. And then she climbed into the cockpit again, leaving behind the stunned silence of an empire built on arrogance now shattered under the roar of truth. Naomi didn't soar back into the sky that day. She stayed, not to rub it in, not to grandstand, but to finish what she started. The general led her back toward the VIP lounge, where the Falconridge board silent and trembling awaited answers they weren't prepared to face. One of them, an aging executive in a $1,000 blazer, tried to stammer. We had no idea. Naomi didn't blink. That's the point. She laid a folder on the table. Inside acquisition documents, quietly prepared, signed in silence. Effective immediately, she said, her voice even. I now own 80% of Falconridge Holdings. This airfield no longer belongs to a legacy. It belongs to merit. There was no applause. Only awe. She turned to the stunned crowd now gathered at the edge of the tarmac, reporters frozen, students paralyzed, staff unsure whether to salute or disappear. And then came the ripple effect. Candace Rothwell, humiliated, speechless, was escorted from the property within the hour. Her father's influence couldn't stop it. Her followers couldn't defend it. The number Raptor Queen tag had overtaken her brand overnight. Her diamond flight suit would never fly again. Commander Whitmore was quietly relieved of duty. His office cleared, his name stripped from the staff directory. His legacy, once elite flight mentor, now reduced to a cautionary tale in PR scandals about judging too quickly. Across social media, Falconridge's old hashtags number Skybornalite, number NextGen Aviators were buried by a single dominant trend. Number, she owns the sky. But Naomi didn't tweet. She didn't post a word. She didn't need to. Because the next day, the world learned the truth. Naomi Ellison wasn't just a pilot. She was a combat-tested tactician with missions classified even inside the Pentagon. She had served in covert zones no one dared list. She had flown recon under enemy fire for 16 consecutive hours, a record untouched. The press dubbed her the Silent Ace. Veterans saluted her on the street. Female cadets wrote letters thanking her for proving you didn't need loudness to lead. You needed clarity, precision, and dignity. And what did Naomi do with her new power? She dismantled the old Falconridge program. She transformed it into a merit-based academy for underprivileged youth. No tuition, no pedigree required, just discipline, determination, and a willingness to earn your wings. The elite jets that once sat like trophies now became tools of purpose. Former janitors became ground tech trainers. Veterans became instructors. And every simulator station bore a plaque that read, "Skill has no uniform, respect has no rank." Students who'd once mocked Naomi now swept hangars, applied for scholarships, begged to stay in the program. Some were accepted, others were sent home with a lesson far more valuable than flight time. Reporters tried to corner Naomi for a formal interview. She declined them all, until one asked, "Ma'am, what made you come here, looking like that?" Naomi finally smiled, just faintly. "I didn't come to look like anything. I came to clean house." And then, with that same calm stride, she walked across the tarmac past the cameras, past the headlines, past the ruins of ego, and disappeared into the hangar. She left behind no fanfare, only silence. But in that silence was the sound of empires falling, and the beginning of something stronger rising. Because greatness doesn't announce itself with noise. It walks in quietly, wears canvas shoes, and leaves with the sky behind it.